everyone. My next guest has been on with me now several years. She's not only one of my guests, she's a client, she's also one of my sponsors. I have with me Anna von Straussenburg. She's the owner of Anna von Straussenburg CPA. Welcome back to the show. Today, before you came on, you said you wanted to talk about certain things, but I always like for people to hear a little bit about you and what makes you so different, and especially what makes you all about excellence and integrity in accounting.
Hi, Carol. I'm so happy to be on the show, and thank you for having me. I've been a CPA for just about almost 24 years now.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I became a CPA in 2000. I had been working in the accounting industry since 1990. And I'll give away a little bit about my age because I started the day after my 30th birthday.
Okay.
And then I got my CPA shortly after my 40th birthday. I started working, and then I decided that I wanted to go back to school and become a CPA, so I did it in night school over a few years, and I'm really glad I did it because my other profession was teaching, and that just does not pay too well, and sometimes it's not as rewarding as you think it might think it
Well,
could
I'm
be.
going to tell you something about Anna. First of all, you love numbers, okay? And you love to, even complicated, it doesn't have to be complicated, but you do happen to like complicated returns. She likes to educate all of her clients, and I think that's wonderful about you. It doesn't matter what size, it can be, you do both personal and business returns, but you love helping people understand their numbers, and this helps so much in their businesses.
Yes, I do. I love helping people understand their numbers, because if you don't understand what's happening with different segments of your business, or even with paying off loans or buying assets, if you don't really have a good grasp of it, then you don't have the tools you need to make good decisions.
Absolutely. You're also all about excellence and integrity in accounting. I know that you're up for being nominated for the excellence in integrity at the Better Business Bureau. What is it called? The Torch Award.
Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Ethics.
Ethics.
And that is really something that I am all about. I believe in being ethical. I just love to stand by my work, and if I make a mistake or my employees make a mistake, I will pay any penalties, because that's how strongly I believe in being excellent, and I am all about being truthful.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah. I've had situations in the past where people have asked me, or asked my former employer who I bought the business from, to do things that were not ethical, and we were happy to point to the door and say, you know what, I think we need to part ways.
Yeah, because it's just going to make you look bad anyway. Yeah. I do want to talk about real quickly before you get on, talking about some of the things you wanted to talk about. I love doing this to my clients when I do this, but I have to talk about this because we just had tax season, right? We just, everybody, you might have not done your taxes, and I do want to have people hear how you can help people who might have been putting your heads in the sand and kind of running away from the IRS.
Yes, I have helped people file back taxes and get caught up when they haven't filed taxes, and it's just really important for you to not keep putting your head in the sand, because what's happening is that penalties and interest keep accruing. So if you did owe, it can be really bad. But the important thing too is when somebody engages me to do that, I reach out to the IRS and say, listen, this person wants to get caught up, and I will make sure to find out how many back years the IRS actually wants, because sometimes they don't want to go back to 10 years ago. They may only want to go back to 3 or 4 years. So it's important to do that before you start, to find out
what do they really want.
What they really want. So that's one important thing. and we can of course calculate how much the person is going to owe. And then if it turns out to be big, we can work on an offer and compromise.
That's awesome. And
You
don't
know.
do it yourself.
Or,
This is something very important.
yeah, we can even do help set up an installment plan.
Which you probably couldn't do yourself, because one thing that people do when they, let's say they talk to the IRS, they're emotionally involved and they talk too much.
Yep, they talk too much, or they may get upset and angry because, sometimes dealing with a bureaucracy can be a bit frustrating. But the last thing you want to do is make the IRS agent angry.
Not angry or at you, no way.
So I always, even if they do something that I'm not totally thrilled with, I try to just bite my tongue and say, oh, well, thank you for your advice, and then I just hope and pray that I get a better one the next time. And sometimes I've gotten agents I didn't like, and one time I was faxing over some information and I got back to my desk and I had been disconnected, and I was so happy.
Now, when you work with Anna, she does do a free consultation. She's also rated with the Better Business Bureau. She works nationwide. Her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. The website is Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Now, I want to talk to you, to bring that to what you wanted to talk about, which is withdrawals from the 401ks and IRAs.
Well, I wanted to bring it up because, there are some, if you withdraw and you're below 59 and a half, there is a 10% penalty on that withdrawal, and there is tax. So taking money out of a 401k or an IRA early is really a very bad idea, unless you absolutely have to. And then I just discovered recently, because I had a new client, that some people are confused about certain exceptions to the penalty. And one person came in and said, well, I withdrew from my 401k because I needed to buy a new house. Well, the problem is that home buyer exemption is fine for an IRA, but not for a 401k.
Go ahead.
And also, there are limitations on how much you can withdraw. You can only claim the penalty exemption on $10,000 of a withdrawal. So that's only going to reduce your penalties by $1,000. So people have withdrawn more. I had somebody a few years ago that withdrew $100,000 out of their IRA and thought it was all exempt from penalties. Well, guess what? She had $9,000 in penalties.
Wow.
So, and the tax on top of that. So it's important when you do something like that to contact a CPA beforehand to find out if the rules are what you think they are, because sometimes people hear things and they just go ahead and go for it because the hairdresser told them that you can have an exemption for first-time home buyers, and there's other exceptions for the penalty, like medical and health insurance, but they differ between 401k and IRA. So it's really important to get all your ducks in a row before you do that.
And I just happened to hear something that somebody said to me at a party I was at, and you know what, it turned out to be the wrong information. And how do I know that it's right, that what Anna says is right? Because she looks it up, and she's all about, you are all about researching and making sure that you're on top of all of this, and also making sure that you understand what she's talking about. You could call her direct at 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. You can check her out on her website. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. She works nationwide. She works with she is A+ rated with a Better Business Bureau. And here's the thing about Anna. When you work with Anna, you say that you didn't like it, but you bring that teacher, a part of you, to everyone, and you become part of family. That phone number again is 480-964-4030. Hang tight. We're going to be back in just a minute. We're still live in the room.
Okay.
Was there anything more here that you wanted to talk about on those?
Well, not so much. I mean, there are other exceptions to the penalty. I said medical, or if you retire from your business over 55 and you're getting equal payments from that 401k, but you have to be retired. So there are lots of little exceptions, and that's the thing that people don't understand. And then there are ways to get, with a 401k, well, you may not be able to, withdraw penalty free, but you may be, most IRAs allow you to take a loan. So if you're still working with the employer, you can take out a loan for what you need it for and then pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have to pay back some interest, but that's another avenue somebody can take. And when they make the wrong decision, there's no going back and fixing it.
Well, I had no idea. Now that's with an IRA too?
No, IRAs are different.
A little different?
So there's differences between IRAs and 401ks, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between the two?
It's not one big difference, it's a lot of little difference.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important to people to really research this or contact somebody who's knowledgeable in it before they make a decision.
Okay.
Because I just looked at the list and there's about 10 different exceptions, and they're some of them the exceptions are good on both, and some of them they are not.
And they try and look it up online.
Yeah.
And then they get too much information, and it's really hard to figure out what's right and what's not.
Yeah, and the problem is that sometimes people will read something that may be an IRA information, and then that doesn't qualify for 401k. Or 401k, we can take a loan and pay it back, So that's really important, to save yourself some penalties.
Oh, gosh, yes. That's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Stephen, the guy that was here for a long time, the guy who you knew that would come in here and help all the time, he went and got another job somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't, just completely different than radio. And I just wanted to wanted to move on and move forward with.
Okay.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking to Anna von Straussenburg, who's the owner of Anna von Straussenburg CPA. Anna, every time you come on this show, I learn something, and I think that's what this show offers for people, not just for, it's the great information that people hear, but also when you are educating like you are, there's a plethora of information. And one of the things that you said when I was asking you about certain things, about what makes the difference between the 401k and the IRAs, and you said, it's not just one thing. You said it's a lot of little things that make the differences. And the thing is that it doesn't matter if you're talking about 401k, if you're talking IRAs, if you're talking about, calling the IRS. It's all those little things that Anna is educated on, that knows what to do, what to look out for. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, I'm really big on doing research because there is so much. The tax code is huge, and there's so much to know that, I do have really good quality research software that I use. And I go to classes several times a year. I always exceed the minimum requirements, which is about 40 hours per year of continuing education. But I probably get closer to 60 hours a year because it's so important for me to keep up with the new tax laws, and they're always changing.
Oh, yes.
And unfortunately, tax law is not always logical either. People think, well, it shouldn't be that way. Well, I'm sorry, but it is.
Right.
There are things that just don't make a whole lot of sense. But that's what my job is to learn to make sense out of it.
Now, one of the other things that you wanted to talk about today was SRP and their energy credits.
Well, SRP just put out an email reminding people that they do give some energy credits, but they give some energy rebates, but the IRS offers some credits. But the thing I wanted to address is, well, if you read the email, you might think you get 30% on everything. Well, that's sort of true depending on what you get. If it's a solar system or a geothermal system, yes, you can get 30% of the actual cost. But other things are limited, where like heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, they're limited to $2,000.
Wow, big difference.
$2,000 of tax credit. So if you're 30% of something really expensive, well, you might not be getting that full $2,000. And I mean, it might cap out at $2,000. If you spent more than, let's say, $10,000, you're not gonna get $2,500. You're gonna get $2,000.
Well, here's what I want to also bring up. This is very important because a lot of people, especially here in Arizona, want to put solar panels up. But solar doesn't always make sense for everybody. I mean, the person that you talk to, the person that maybe is a solar consultant, or those companies that come around and knock on your door, they're going to tell you it makes perfect sense. But Anna, you can help people, if somebody, let's say, is thinking about putting those panels up, before they even do that, find out whether or not it makes sense to do.
Yeah, well, the thing is you have to have a big enough tax liability to be able to write off those tax credits in some cases. And then the other thing is, well, they're very, very costly. Sometimes they cost like $30,000. And so you have to kind of weigh the cost, like, against how much you're paying monthly for your electric bill and whether it makes sense for you. If you're 80 years old,
I was just going to say,
it might not make sense for you. I had a client who was in her 80s and she did it and was happy that she got the tax credit, but she never really reaped the benefit of the energy savings because, she passed away a couple years later. She was like 85 when she passed away, and she really didn't get all the benefit out of it. She got a very small portion of the benefit.
So sometimes it doesn't make sense, and it would make sense to call Anna and have that consultation. What do you do when people call you about something like this? How do you how do you figure that out? Do they have to go to their homes and find out their sort of their
Well, yeah,
about?
the first thing I would
Thank you.
ask is how much they pay on average during the year, and maybe find out how much they pay during the summertime versus the fall and winter when it's cooler. And so we figure out somebody's annual electric bill, and then weigh that against the cost of the solar panels, less the tax credits and rebates they're going to get, and whether they're going to really be able to recoup that. Because if you're either elderly or you're planning to move, well, that might not be the best. And they say, well, it does improve the value of the house, but unfortunately, things like that don't improve the value of the house by the total amount you paid for it. Because they're going to look at the comparable sales in your neighborhood to price that property, and it's just not going to get that big of a boost.
Depending on who buys your house too, they could have a big family, and you may not.
Yeah, and some people may not care about it, but other people might.
Right, everybody's different, has a different thought, but that's where you come in, and that you do free consultations with people. Her phone number direct, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does do free consultations. She works nationwide, rated with the Better Business Bureau, and she's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. I also think it's important for you to talk a little bit about how some people still got extensions and still are going to be doing their own taxes. I just want to talk about that really quickly because you also help people and do second opinions for people all the time, especially if you've done it on your own, and you help people get more money back, and you've done it, you said 100% of the
Yep,
time.
when people have come to me for second consultations, I have always been able to help them save money. And because there's things that people just don't know when they're inputting stuff into those tax software programs like TurboTax. And the questions that TurboTax might ask you can seem a little bit confusing. So they'll ask you if you received a 1099, and then you might put that in, but then, oh, it's a 1099-R. I had a good friend that came to me and had me look at her tax return. She is an accountant. Well, she's retired now, but she had tried to do in TurboTax, and I realized that she put the same information in two different places because the way the questions were asked were a little bit misleading.
I have to bring this up if it's okay with you.
Sure.
I'm going to do it to you right live on the air. So, you may know, I know that you've helped my daughter, and she tried to do it on her own this last time. And I said to her, well, before you push that button, you know, I know you work with Anna, and I know you like her very much. Why don't you give her a call, and just to see if you're doing the right thing. And you saved her from having to pay the IRS quite a bit of money.
Yes, because she wasn't, taking advantage of all the expenses that she could take advantage of.
And that's where you come in.
Yeah.
And that's what I've explained to so many people. You don't have to have a large business. You can be a solopreneur. You do both business and personal. You help people. That's what your job is, and you do it with excellence and integrity to help them get not have to pay the IRS the money that you might have to if you did it on your own.
Yes, that's correct. And there's so many times I have seen people make mistakes where they didn't know how to properly report maybe stock transactions, and they didn't get the right basis, or they just didn't know. Like the example, a lot of people work for big companies, get these incentive stock options. Well, the part of it is reported in their wage as wages. And so if you just take the numbers off the brokerage statement, generally the basis is too low. And so you end up paying too much tax. And I have helped several people in that same situation sort that out and pay the right amount of tax.
Also, she loves complicated returns. Maybe you're somebody who has a business in dual states or even another country. Real quickly, talk about that.
Yeah, I like to work with people that do multi-state returns or businesses that a lot of people, when they have businesses, they have more than one business. And that's something I'm really good at, because one thing is you need to look at the picture as a whole, because often people do the old,
Blending of the two.
Blending of the two, or they take from Peter,
Rob Peter
to pay Paul
Right.
type of thing. Because, sometimes one business will be real successful for a while and another one needs a little financial help. And so sometimes they pay expenses for the other business out of one business. So we have to sort that out and make sure it's all correct.
That's what it's all about, is having someone like Anna on your side. She is all about excellence and integrity in accounting. Let me tell you how hard it is to get that nominated for that Torch Award from the Better Business Bureau for ethics. I was there and I saw how people reacted to the winners and things like that. I know you're going to win. That number to call her direct, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. The website is ArizonaCPAs.com. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau, and she does free consultations. Again, write that number and put it in your phone, because you know you're going to need it. If not this year, next year for sure. Her number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030.
That went pretty good.